Good day, strategy gamers, and welcome back to another episode of Downfall: Conquest of the Third Reich by GMT Games. In this episode, we're going to be taking a couple of turns for the OKH and OKW factions. But before we dive into that action, I need to go back to an error from the last episode, episode 7, and credit to Asyncritus for catching this in the video. In our battle around Kursk, there was an error regarding how I resolved the loss for the attackers and the Soviets. I had correctly remembered, shocking I got this part right, that the loss needed to come from the armored unit that was part of the attack before it could come from an infantry-based unit. However, my execution of that was lackluster. The armor unit was a 2-strength armor unit at the beginning of the attack, and I had rotated it to its 1-strength pip. In actuality, I should have flipped the counter to its 2-strength infantry side to resolve the loss. So just wanted to make sure we got that quick correction out of the way at the beginning of the episode. Thank you, Asyncritus. I'm confident I am not pronouncing that correctly, but I appreciate you catching that I had gotten that incorrect. I need to come up with some type of member reward points or something like that for any errors that you guys all are catching during the videos. It's a bit of a Where's Waldo in each episode, but I just want to send out, again, this message to everyone. I greatly appreciate when you do catch those things. It's natural in our hobby, and it's a good reminder that you can still have a lot of fun even if you don't have perfect fluency in all of your actions playing these games. So really do appreciate that catch in the last video. And let's hop on over now to the action. We'll look next at the action track, as it is now the OKW player's turn. So taking a look here at the action track, we see that at the moment there's only one applicable order for the OKW faction, and that is this mechanized reinforcement order. We're going to move everything down and reseed the top action. Had a lot of Soviet and a lot of Western Allied orders of late, so I know this cup's probably pretty full of OKW and OKH actions. But once you know it, we drew a Soviet partisans order. Well then. So we find ourselves in this position where the OKW player can't take that mechanized order as they have already executed the mechanized order. And I think that the only thing that we really have left then would be to execute a reseed order. I'm going to pause real quick though, because I want to check one thing regarding the planning box. So what I wanted to check with the reseed order, this is, I think, a bit of a unique situation here. We have a situation that I can't actually execute a mechanized reinforcement order as I had already done so, and that's already filled on my OKW order track. However, my planning box is empty. So I'm going to interpret this one way, and I welcome others' thoughts, and I may pose this question on BGG or other places if this has not already been asked, but I haven't yet done a great deal of internet research on this. I'm just looking at the rules right now. And in the rulebook 7.12 reseed order, it says this order may be performed only if there are no order markers valid for the active faction on the action track, and there is at least one marker in the draw cup. There are many in the draw cup. We've actually had just a statistical anomaly with all the Western Ally and Soviet markers we're drawing. I interpret the intent of that to be that you can't actually conduct that action. So while I think it is possible for me to put it in the planning box, I don't think it's the designer's intent that then for the rest of this turn, which there's still a good amount to go, I would then be crippled from using my planning box for any other purposes, as I would never be able to get it out of the planning box. So I'm going to interpret it that I can execute a reseed order. So I'm going to, off camera, just because it's a little administrative, go ahead and put all the order markers that are on the action track back into the wonderful coffee mug, and then we will cut back to the action, look to see what orders are available. This will unfortunately act as the order that I'm executing for the faction, and will then flip over to the next faction, but we'll be right back with those new orders. I'm actually going to capture here the drawing of the orders, and I'm just going to put them in the first order box to the lowest. So first we get is a Western Allies redeploy 5 marker. Next we have an OKH attack 3 order, followed by a Soviet attack 4 order. Here we have one that would be applicable for the OKW faction, and this is a recruit order. Next is a redeploy and attack Western Ally order. Another recruit faction OKH OKW order. We have an OKW OKH command ship. A Western Allies command, I'm actually forgetting, it's HQ order, I think. And next we have a Soviet move 3 attack 2 order. And lastly, an OKW move 3 attack 2, although the reverse side is strategic warfare. So that poses an interesting option there too, to have the strategic warfare. This is probably a better representation of, the Soviets have 2 markers, the Western Allies have 3, and then between OKH and OKW, they have 5 or 6 kind of dual purpose. So divide that in half, and each faction has 2 or 3 choices on the action track. It's probably what we should have been experiencing for most of the game, but we've had some rotten luck for these OKH OKW factions. Looking at these, we've got, it's just OKH sided. We do have the recruit option, so that'd be the first available to the OKW player. This is a little interesting to give us some flexibility in maybe being able to do a redeploy. Because as you all know, I have been waiting to take the 5th Panzer and the Afrika Korps and get them evac'd off of North Africa and into hopefully the boot of Italy. I need to think about that a little. It's just what am I thinking? You see, I'm almost, I know you guys, you're ready to make a comment that I was about to do something wrong here, but I caught myself this time. I actually, as the OKW faction, cannot play any of these orders because I've already played an order, and that was the reseed order, which has an initiative cost of 3. So it's off camera, but I am moving the OKW marker up 3, not passing an OKW event space, so there's no need for any of that. And now we have the OKH player as the lowest initiative marker. So I think we'll just stay right here on the action track and decide what the OKH player is going to do. So their options are to attack. I don't think there are a lot of counterattack possibilities for us on the East Front. Just kind of summarizing that real quick for you. We've actually done a good job where most of the front we've been able to retreat and pull back, so we're not in contact actually with the Soviet forces. We could use this recruit order. May flip these. So we could reinforce, and that would be really helpful because we'd actually be able to reinforce then around, Kursk and just other areas where the Soviets are threatening a breakthrough. So that's really appealing. And then, that's double-sided for the OKH side as well. It gives us some flexibility to maybe do another redeploy, although I think we're probably where we want to be on the front lines and nobody's cut off. And then lastly, that's strategic warfare for OKW, so there's nothing there. I think we'll probably go ahead and play the recruit order. So let me just reference real quick. That's going to be a cost of 21, and I get 4 infantry steps. 4 infantry steps, and 1, if possible, has to go to an Axis minor, which I think we'd probably be able to reinforce the Hungarian unit in Ukraine. So I think that might work. I maybe misspoke. There's that ball. No, it's Hungarian. Okay. I'm going to flip the camera around to the east front, and we can choose where we want those reinforcements to go. And I'll take the order here and put it on the track and pay the initiative cost. So I've moved the initiative marker a total of 22 spaces because we had the +1 cost for an available order being below it on the action track. That brought us to 69, passing the OKH event marker, so we will have a pending event to resolve at the end of this faction's phase. And we can also take a look at our options now for the recruit order. Now, first, right off the bat, just because it's kind of a conditional statement on the card, we're going to get this out of the way. In Kiev, we're going to take this Hungarian unit and add 1 strength to it. So that now leaves us with a total of 4 that we can, or excuse me, a total of 3 that we can now use by reinforcing units that are in supply. And I did a little checking off camera. It does look like everything's in supply, so I don't have any concerns there, I don't think. I do have in my force pool a couple of garrison units, 1 for OKH, 1 for Hungary, 1 for Slovakia, it looks like, and that's it. So I could use one of those steps to bring one of those garrison units onto the map in a supply source for that respective nation. So for example, I could bring the OKH one to Königsberg. I don't think it's quite time we need to start worrying about that. We'll have more recruit orders available where we'll be able to do so. So I'm not going to go for that option. I'm actually going to go a route that I think is, again, shockingly a little historical here. For those who are more familiar than I probably will remember that in Kursk, it was just this massive buildup of resources for both sides during the war for the famous Battle of Kursk, largest mechanized armored fight in the war. And I wonder if to date, I can't quite remember if that's a true statement though, but an incredibly large battle happened there because both sides were concentrating a huge amount of forces. I, in my infinite wisdom, clearly, decided not to withdraw from Kursk in the last battle that we had there as the OKH player. Instead, I kept my unit there. I now have the option to actually reinforce that infantry unit in Kursk to full strength, a total of 4, which would really put a damper on the Soviets' push trying to break through there. Because if you look at their location of forces, it is where, at this moment in time, they have the best possibility of actually breaking through the line and making some progress. Now, if they redeploy their forces here to be in contact again on the line, it is a risk maybe with some of these minor units, but I will at least have combat modifiers as they try to cross the Donets River here. So that's, even though they're only 2 strength, I think I still have maybe another turn or not turn, but a phase or 2 to be able to try to address that concern. But Kursk is a very serious risk for us right now, and it's right in the middle of our line as well. Even if the Soviets do break through in the south, through Ukraine, it's less of a risk them breaking through on the southern flank than it is them breaking through our center. So, the remaining 3 reinforcement units we are going to put to bring this infantry unit to full strength in Kursk. And good luck, Soviet player, aka myself, in a few hours. I think that wraps up the recruit order. We did have the pending event, though, as we spent that initiative. So we'll turn the camera around to look at the event cards, and I'll do my darnest to get that order of operations right this episode. We'll see you over there. And now for the event phase. The very first thing is we're just going to take the current event and move it to the top of the discard pile. Then we'll take the current draw pile card, and it becomes our new current event. I have to take a look and remove air units for matching the current and discard it. Now, there were no air units on the last current event card, so I don't think we'll actually have any we need to remove here. Looking real quick. No, we are all okay on air units. Now we resolve the new current event. So this is Mare Nostrum. There's no Axis units in Africa. If there are no units in Africa, apply the Africa Liberated event, but we have units in Africa, so there's nothing to do there. Otherwise, the OKW player gets an armored reinforcement. Now, I remember actually that a couple episodes ago, I think I had a little bit of a mix-up there with those cards. I think I had retracted that on the board. I will go back, though, and confirm. But what I'm going to do is take a Axis armored reinforcement and apply it to the 15th Panzer that is in Brussels right now. And that's where the Axis reinforcement will go. The timing on this is just absolutely perfect because I do want to, with the OKW player, get out of North Africa in the next phase or two. So this timing's incredible that I got that reinforcement before this was done. So good news there. Now we reveal the next pending card, and this is supply. Okay, so it's a supply check. Boy, timing gets better and better because with supply check, I'll have to check for supply for all my units in North Africa, and that could really weaken the Italian forces that are in the Mediterranean. So my next phase as the OKW player, I definitely want to get those units out of North Africa while I still have a greater fleet strength that's available to me there. So this isn't the current event yet. I'm not going to get ahead of myself again. But this is the new pending event. So we know that a supply check is upcoming. I don't think the OKW player will be able to take advantage of that, as there's not really anything that they could do to try to cut off enemy forces. However, after the OKW player, the Soviets are next up in the initiative track. So maybe if they did something really clever, they could break through and cause a supply issue for me, but I don't think that's the case as of right now. So with that said, we continue moving on here, and we draw action cards for each of the factions. Now, really, it's just each faction gets a card. So for the Western Allies, we got naval assets. So really, it allows us to do a relocation of a Western unit port to port, or when an OKW unit moves or traces supply in a sea area on which you have a friendly port, the OKW faction must discard one action card at random. Okay, so that might actually work out well for the Western Allies. The Soviet card draw, we'll do that next. So this is a combat modification card, headquarters card, so just a +1 strength modifier there, the Voronezh front, for turns 1 through 3. So that goes in their hand. And then we'll draw one for the OKW player now. This is Army Group South. So this gives a strength modifier in DRM, it looks like. And now we'll do for the OKW player. So a breakout card. So we've seen these before, just helps with getting a unit out of a tight spot, really. That is now in the Soviet and OKW player's hand. That does it for the events, because there's no air units on the new pending card. And I will flip the initiative marker to its non-event pending side. And we will continue on with the OKW player's turn here in this episode. So we'll hop back over to the action track, I think, to just review our options there. And I'll see you soon. So looking at the action track, we of course are going to move everything down one and draw a new order. Although I'm pretty sure I know what we're going to do on this one. And we drew a Soviet attack 4 order. That's actually going to be pretty useful to them, I think. And it's for infantry and armor, so it gives them good options there. Number one priority, especially given the event cards that we just had, is going to be the evacuation of North Africa. So what we're going to do is play the OKW headquarters order. Put that on the order track. And that allows us to play an OKW ops order. And the one that we are going to play is this redeploy 3. Oh, it's not getting into focus. Sorry about that. Well, we're just going to set it down there. Redeploy 3 that allows for infantry, armor, and naval. That's the key thing, the naval units, to be activated. To do a port-to-port move, you do need to have that naval icon on the order. So we have that satisfied, and I'm going to adjust the, I'm going to end up paying a total of 4. This has a cost of 3, but I'm jumping ahead of the recruit option that we have available to us. So I'm going to pay 4 initiative and then adjust the camera over to look at the Mediterranean and how our evacuation is going to proceed. So when doing port-to-port movement in a redeploy order, it's important to remember that you cannot move more than 6 pips worth of strength. Now, the OKW faction has 2 with the Africa Corps, 2 with the 5th Panzer, 1 garrison, and 1 garrison. However, I think we're actually going to leave the garrison units where they're at. I think we do want a token resistance in North Africa. Maybe if we get really lucky, we can maybe get another Mare Nostrum event card with more OKW armor reinforcements. We'll see. But I think we're going to leave that token resistance there, which means we need to move the Africa Corps and we need to move the 5th Panzer. Now, when you look at it, I don't have any Italian fleet units in the West Mediterranean, which as things stand means that I can't do a port-to-port movement from, say, either of these ports up into Spezia or Naples or something like that, because I have no naval presence in the Western Mediterranean. I do in the Central Mediterranean, though. So as things stand, I would be able to move these units to Syracuse or to Taranto, but those are really the 2 ports. I mean, although that's UK, I don't actually know if I could even move there, but I would have no interest in doing so. So with that said, I would actually really like to, and actually let me add one more thing. Toronto here, because I already have this Italian unit, I would be breaking the stacking limits if I were to move the unit there. Or, excuse me, if I were to move the Africa Corps and 5th Panzer, because I can only have 2 combat units of the same ideology and the same hex. So that's not an option. However, a thought just occurred to me. I can actually take this Italian unit and move it to Barry, because I'm doing a redeploy operation that is eligible for infantry as well as naval. So I'm just going to solve the problem that way. What I was going to do was actually do a fleet move of one of these fleets up into the Adriatic, then conduct the port-to-port move. But this is a much more elegant solution that has just come to me, and I don't think it is breaking anything in the rule mechanisms, so we will go forward with it. And we will then try to take both of these units from their current positions in North Africa to Tarenta. Now, this is all conducted as one order. So we're going to have one sea interception, and we're going to have one sea attack if the Western Allies choose to do so. Hint, hint, they will choose to do a sea attack. So with that, let's conduct it, and we'll just place these units out here to confirm that they are committed. And first we will do the interception check. So this happens when doing a port-to-port movement and it's a contested sea zone. Also happens during supply, etc. So this would have happened when we get to the eventual supply check event that's coming up very soon as well. Now when we do this, we have to look at the strengths of the two sets of naval units. The Italians have 4. The Western Allies have 6. So that's a difference of 2. And there's nothing on the sorry, it's just out of camera. I didn't position that well, but there's no advantage they get on the Siege of Malta tracks. There's no modifier there. However, they do have this fleet with intrinsic air, which gives them a +1. So that's a +1 modifier to them. So that's 7 against 4 means that I take an initiative hit of 3. So I will go ahead and, when we get done with all this, make sure we move the OKW initiative marker up 3. Now that the interception's done, the defender, or excuse me, the interceptor, the Western Allies, now get to choose to do a sea attack option. So we have a variance or a delta difference between these two of 3, just as we had identified. And we're going to roll 2 dice to see what the outcome is going to be of this sea attack. And the options are, if it's a 4 or less, I get to interdict one of the intercepting naval units, which seems like it will be unlikely, especially with a +3 modifier to the Western Allies. Actually, yeah, it's not even possible rolling 2 dice. So that doesn't matter. And then 5 through 9 is 1 hit to the defender. Now, as I take hits, I can either interdict one of these fleets, or I can take the hit to our units here as a just strength loss. They lose a pip of strength. A 10 to 14 is 2 hits, and greater than 15 is 3 hits. So I don't think I'm missing any modifiers there. It's just a +3 modifier on 2 die. So let's go ahead and see what the sea attack does. A 4 and 4 is 8, plus the DRM of 3 brings us to 11, which means that the defender has to satisfy 2 hits. So I think what we will do is we will interdict 2 of these Italian fleets. I think I would rather have the strength in these units than the fleets. I'm kind of giving up a little bit on the Mediterranean as my strategy here, because I don't feel that there's a way for the Western Allies to win just through a Mediterranean strategy. Although, we will see. There's quite a lot still to happen. But I think having these at full strength in another couple of turns, ready to defend against the real invasion of Western Europe, is going to be more valuable than having the fleet strength for the next supply check, which then costs me initiative. So in theory, another way you could think about this, if right now we did the supply check, I've just purposefully lost 2 additional initiative, but that feels like a pretty good trade for me compared to the initiative cost of, was it 21, I think, to get 4 infantry steps off of these guys. So cut that in half, it's 10.5 initiative per 2 steps. So yeah, that's the logic there. All long-winded to say, though, that these guys have successfully made it to Italy, and I can now start moving them into better defensive positions to be ready for the coming storms. A note that when you do the port-to-port movement, that's the end of any other movement that they'd be capable of doing. So that's just all there is. That Italian unit that I moved, again, this is kind of poor etiquette, but I think I would have allowed my opponent to do this if this was face-to-face or something as well. I'm not going to actually move them to Bari. I'm actually going to move them further down here to Cosenza, just to make the travel for these guys a little easier, and it's in a better defensive position there. So that is done. I don't have any other OKW units that I would like to redeploy, and we have not crossed an event pending marker, so there's no event sequence that we need to conduct. We're going to close out the episode here. Next episode, we will have another Soviet turn and Western Allies turn, and we are getting in the back third now of the initiative track for the turn. So another episode or two, maybe 3, and we'll actually probably be phasing into the next turn sequence. So that will have some interesting new mechanics as well as we look at reinforcements and weather updates and what have you. So with that, as always, I'll end with a thank you for your support of the channel and these videos. Any comments you may have, feedback, again, I need to think of some type of membership reward points every time you guys do catch something I did incorrectly. It is so appreciated, though. I say that with genuine appreciation because it helps myself and the community better understand the game and make sure we're being thorough as we go through and play and have fun with the game. So, hoping that, as always, strategy gamers, you have yourselves an excellent day. Bye now.